Tell me. Go. Time being 7 p.m., January 13th, 2025. I'd like to call the regular scheduled council meeting to order. If you'd all please stand, face the flag, and repeat after me.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. First item of business tonight is public input. Anyone that has signed up may speak at this time for a period of 3 minutes. If you feel you need more time, the council may grant that by consensus. Jeff Mayer. You got your timer.
Make sure that timer's going. Sheila, I'd like to have my comments full and unedited attached to the end of this meeting. I'll send you a file for you and stuff. My name is Jeff Mayer, 1020 Dollywood Court. I've lived in Copper Canyon for over 39 years. I'm here to speak to Copper Canyon and the current path this town is on. This is the worst town management I've seen in 40 years here. We need new town leadership. The current people in office believe only they can decide how this town develops its land and services. My neighbors nor I have never seen a single council member in Chin Chapel North, ever. Ask yourselves the last time you were contacted by a council member for your opinion on what we should be doing here at Forest and Copper Canyon. In a speech a couple of months ago, one of the council members admitted that these 6 people discuss agenda items outside of public view and then decide how they will vote as a block. A nearly 100% compliance voting record is the proof of this situation. The sad thing is, they believe their out of public view discussions is the proper way to do town business. This mayor and council think changing zoning, spending money without public oversight is the right thing. Let me give them a hint. It's our money and it's our town. The mayor and deputy mayor direct this voting block, and the rest of the council don't have the balls to stand up and act like independent men. Could it be current or previous financial connections affect their actions? I don't know. But I do believe this activity may be in violation of the Texas Open Meetings Act when these intentional actions prevent the public viewing of what the council is doing. Ladies and gentlemen, the window to register for mayor or town council opens January 15th and closes February 14th. We need new people to step up and step forward. Bring new and open viewpoints rather than some sort of Politburo running this town. I've served before, we need others now. For those who don't know the current town council, all live within a few blocks of each other. I also hear rumors the council members are asking their other friends to run for office. This is so they can continue their insider way of doing business. No town needs this sort of governance. Copper Canyon needs leadership from the east, west, north, and south. Independent leaders who don't have previous or current financial ties to one another. So everyone, please think about it. Think about going to town hall, listing your name for a position on the town council.
Nancy Henry.
Sheila, I'll send you the file. I'd like it in the record also, the minutes. Hi, I'm Nancy Henry at 761 Lonesome Dove Lane. We've been in Copper Canyon since 1975 and have moved here for the country living. Over the years, we have fought to maintain the country connected living, as this is why we and others moved to Copper Canyon over the years. Our town has voted twice on the master plan and zoning for Copper Canyon. When a purchaser buys in Copper Canyon, whether an individual and or a developer, they are aware of the zoning for the specific land use they purchased. Copper Canyon has ordinances everyone, parentheses, council and administration, residents, builders, and developers is to abide by, and should respect Copper Canyon and her residents and not try to incorporate their own rules. The residents of Copper Canyon are entitled to know the status of the alleged lawsuit on Canyon Bluff Court regarding the proposed church. I say alleged because I have not been able to find any court documents pertaining to the lawsuit. Everybody knows I researched that.
This in January, by the way. It's January, just Wednesday, if you'd like to come.
Okay. Since it is Copper Canyon residents' tax money, we should have transparency as far as this is concerned. Thank you, and thank y'all for your service. Sheila, I'll send that to you.
Ted Stranzik.
Mayor, just a question first. There's going to be a presentation by
Correct.
Mr. Jefferson,
That's correct.
and are you going to allow comments other than by the council once that presentation
We're
is
going to
made?
allow Q&A for a period of time.
I'm sorry?
Yes, we're going to allow some Q&A at
Just
the
Q&A.
end.
Okay, very good. My name is Ted Stranzik. I live at 1020 North Berry Trail Court. I have read this municipal assessment, and I find it lacking in so many ways. It's, in most cases, and I'm going to say at least half of it is pure fluff. It can apply to any town. A quarter of it is reasonable and accurate. The other 25%, and this is in so many ways, few significant findings or recommendations are present. Let's face it. You've already heard from two people. This town has big problems. And there are problems with operating, management of our town affairs. If I look at this document, I find a number of major city problems that are totally ignored. I want to bring some of those up today. Transparency. Both the town council and town administrator really rely on whole story. There's just not full disclosure by any of you. And when we look at addressing public issues, you don't tell the whole story. There's always something in the background that you find out later. If I look at Mr. Jefferson, who did he talk to, and what kind of due diligence did he really do? Did he talk to the residents at Copper Creek, Boots Ranch, Estates of Copper Canyon about the harsh treatment from developers, ordinance violations, and legal issues, only to find their pleas are largely ignored by the mayor, the town attorney, and the council? Has this gentleman ever attended a town council meeting and witnessed the poor meeting management control, the reluctance to enforce compliance of our town ordinances, supported by a compromised legal oversight? All too often, residents' feedback is ignored or criticized by simply saying, there's nothing I can do, or he's a troublemaker. The current council is in disarray. 2 council members have resigned this year, and there is no explanation as to why. The legal justification for accepting or not the resignation was mishandled by our town attorney, who later was forced to resign. If you attend a P&Z meeting, you can witness the confusion and difficulty in interpreting and implementing outdated town ordinances. Our current town ordinances are in dire shape and they need to be
Thank you, Ted.
replaced.
Thank you.
May I have one
Thank you,
more
Ted.
minute?
Consensus of council? I hear no consensus, no.
I thank the council for their non-consensus.
Thank you. Next item is staff and mayor's report. Council staff, I don't have anything. One I do have, we have the mayor's crime control luncheon, the 23rd. Okay, 11 o'clock.
Just want to highlight a couple of things that are in progress. As you guys know, Jessica Baker, our board administrator, had left up in December for a position that was closer to her house and had upward mobility. So we have 4 interviews scheduled for this week to try to fill that position. So we feel pretty good about those candidates. So that's on the track for this week. We also have our development process committee meeting this week on Wednesday evening, looking at a final draft of the subdivision ordinance. So that's underway, and hopefully we can get that teed up and finalized up this week as well. As many of you may know, the phase 3 of Copper Canyon, or Copper Creek Estates, that's off Copper Canyon Road, it has been approved by the county in the final plat. And so there is some drainage that comes into the town limits, subsurface drainage. Chris has reviewed that, engineers have reviewed it, and that's been issued for a permit. So they're looking to start that project early February as well. And those Copper Knolls Estates, they are finishing up the utilities, putting, they have about 50% of the street in as well. And then Quarter Horse Estates that went to P&Z for the approval of the preliminary plat. The P&Z approved that unanimously tonight. And then Awney Ranch, that's off Copper Creek or Copper Canyon Road, is submitted their plans as well for their preliminary plat. So that looks like that may go to planning and zoning in February. So that's what we've got as far as development goes.
I'm going to go ahead and disclose this. Bring this out because Mrs. Henry brought it up. I know people are curious. And we did receive an email today from the people that allegedly wanted to do a church. And they've decided now that they did decide back some time ago that they were just going to do an accessory building and was going to remove part of the building. We required them to x-ray the slab, get engineering on it. They've been double fined, a total of close to $7,000. They're going to court on Wednesday. They now have all their documents. We received an email today and now they're going to pursue the church again. So this will be going to DRC, be going through the P&Z process if in fact they make application. So there's a lot more to that to come yet. That was as of today. So transparency, you all know what I know now. And it will probably meet opposition, I would think. But that is their intention, is to go and pursue the church scenario. So we don't know anymore. They haven't made application. They are going to court. There will be still fines and foods ensued. Chris, I have a question on Copper Creek Phase 3 drainage underground. Before that was built, before that was even a thought, we had Ted was on the committee or the drainer. Copper Creek 1 and 2, when it got a lot of water, heavy rains, all that water crossed Copper Canyon Road, went down Ranch Trail Road, I believe it was, flooded Ranch Trail Road. Now we're going to introduce 47 more lots of concrete and put it in an underground culvert, basically, or a channel. Isn't that going to come out just that much quicker and that much faster and create that much more problems down Ranch Road?
No, in fact, pardon me. So what's happening is the water that used to come directly across Copper Canyon Road is now getting caught in a pipe on the south side, or whatever that southeast west road is. It actually turns 90 degrees and comes down Copper Canyon Road and connects into an existing system on Copper Canyon Road and continues to go south to that large culvert that is just south of the fire station. So it's actually take all that water away from crossing Copper Canyon
Okay.
Road up there.
All right, thank you. That's all I just had. Thank you, Troy. Council, you have anything? Any committees? Hearing none, I'll go to our next item is a presentation and discussion of Copper Canyon Municipal Assessment by Harlan Jefferson. Harlan was recommended to us actually by Sue Tamel. I've known Harlan for years, city manager, Flower Mound and Prosper. And we asked him to help us assess our town. In my opinion, when you do an assessment of, like, if I had an assessment of my company, they could come in and I could pay $10,000 for an assessment. Chances are I'm going to find something wrong in my company that I can improve on and save and pay that $10,000 back full, probably 10 times that. So that's one reason we did that, to be sure that, to see that we're as efficient as we possibly can be. So Harlan, thank you for being here.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mayor. Good evening, Mayor, members of the council, Mayor Sue, and members of the public. As the mayor said, my name is Harlan Jefferson. I'm invited to do a municipal assessment, and it's really my pleasure to become more familiar with the town of Copper Canyon. And it was our goal to conduct a comprehensive assessment. Take a moment to tell you a little bit about myself. I have over 4 decades of experience. The mayor mentioned I've previously, he didn't mention Denton that I worked for, but I previously served as town manager in Flower Mound as well as Prosper, worked for Burleson as well as Jackson, Michigan. In addition to that, I started a consulting firm in 2015, a co-founder of a consulting firm. So we specialize in infrastructure and financial planning and so forth. I have a master's of public administration from the University of North Texas, and I also serve as an adjunct faculty member at the university as well, in addition to some other training, financial management type training. And when I do the adjunct faculty classes, I tell my students, my challenge isn't that I need to find more experience. My challenge is really around remembering the experience I already have. So fortunately, I haven't outrun that experience. I tend to circle back around and revisit things I've experienced early in my years. So the outline of the presentation, I'll talk about superior community. I'll talk about the recommendations I provided. Every community, as Mayor said, or anybody does assessment, you're going to find things you can do better. That's the goal, how to improve ultimately. And then we'll finish up with the conclusion. So the areas we looked at going to deal with town administration's office, a town administrator's office, municipal court, city secretary's office, and police department. So in terms of a superior community, I really am impressed with the community. The phrase that came to mind was that Copper Canyon has a lot of areas in which you guys fight above your weight class. And what I mean by that, you do things that I would expect to see in much larger communities, or at least the level of service. I'll start with the fire and emergency services. NPR earlier in the fall of 24 did a report, and it was on rural communities in Collin County. And you could have seen this report probably year after year, but it was about the poor fire protection and EMS service they received and how they were relying on the county to negotiate with larger cities around them to provide service. And you guys really went through that experience and fixed that problem, addressed it, almost 20 years ago when you participated in the creation of the ESD. When you talk to any fire professional, they'll tell you if you take up longer than 6 minutes to arrive on the scene and someone's hadn't been breathing, they'll lose oxygen to their brain, and they can experience brain damage and so forth. So the closer you have the stations to you, the better off, and you have that exceptional service in a rural environment. That's really unusual. And I know you created an ESD2 in the fall of 23 to address emergency medical services issues and financial challenges, but you're way ahead of the game of a small community in this type of environment by having participated in the ESD, in my opinion. Another area you fight above your weight class, as I mentioned in the report, you created not only your own police department, which you can tailor your police department to the services you need, But you also created the crime control district. I noted in the report there are only 57 of those in the state, and only 6 smaller than your community. So it's another example where you're in the class with Fort Worth, Flower Mound, Louisville, Prosper, Capel, Grapevine, and the list goes on. So and these are much larger communities. Bartonville and Argyle also have those districts. Now, one of the areas I really was always impressed with, at least for the time I was town manager in Flower Mound, starting in the transportation partnerships. In 2004, Denton County became really aggressive in bond programs, and part of that they partnered with their neighboring communities to help fund regional projects, but as well as local projects within your communities. And I think Copper Canyon benefited greatly within your city by having regional funding from the county, help pay for your roads to reduce the tax burden on your citizens. But you have massive regional roads around you, FM 407, 2499, expansion to I-35, all those, and you're not overly burdened with tollways as some areas are. You have 121, but it almost pretty much ends in the toll portion in Denton County. So other counties complain quite a bit about those. So you partner with those, and I think if you really ran the numbers per capita, you probably it's at the top of the list in terms of benefiting from those bond programs from Denton County. Municipal court is another example. I was really surprised that you have a municipal court. Typically, the rule is you have to be over 50,000 before our communities really create municipal courts. We evaluate that a number of times in Prosper and never created one, and it's over 40,000 now. And then enhance your revenue, but they also enhance your traffic enforcements. Citations can't easily be dismissed. You have to have a cause for those, and you have to actually have a real appeal process. So that reduces those things from being kicked out. Having council committees as a town manager, when I first encountered those, I thought a lot of the issues the council dealt with were more administrative. And then as I began to work with them, I appreciated them much more. So I think I listed that one because you get this benefit from the specialty within the council through those council committees. Much more deliberation can occur, and then much more transparency because a lot of times those meetings are open to the public, and the general public can participate far in advance of issues actually being on the council agenda. Next to the last item I listed is monthly financial reports. I can't say I've worked for a community that actually had monthly financial reports presented to the council, to let you know how rare that is. I've seen communities produce them and send them out, but when they're presented to the public, it creates much more transparency, and you get to really plan appropriately for what's coming ahead of you, identify challenges, and come up with solutions ahead of those. And I think the last item, the municipal investment pools, might tie into that. When you're looking at these reports and you can see that interest income isn't where it should be or could possibly be, you can start pursuing other alternatives to generate interest income. And maybe that's how y'all arrived at that one. And Mayor, you mentioned looking at revenue opportunities to save. I thought this was going to be really a bird nest on the ground and a great one to look at because compared to interest rates in banks, the pools are substantially higher than that. Plus, you get the benefit of their professional staff and same access to your money in terms of overnight investment. So that was a great call for the council to make. So I look at all those, and I think I'm really impressed with the community. Again, you guys fighting above your weight class. If you look at all those, you tend to do the type of things in those areas you find in much larger cities. So in terms of the recommendations, the areas I looked at, again, I list on the slide here, and then specifically the categories I evaluated deals with the financial analysis of operational efficiency, service delivery, as well as the development and regulations. On the next slide, Troy. So under financial analysis, I'll just mention one of the recommendations was really to rename your reserve fund, the roadway reconstruction fund. And I think that gives you an opportunity to have a discussion when you replace a lot of the roads in the community, how much should be debt funded, how much should be cash funded, and you can come up with a strategy for getting to that point. So if your community want to cash fund those, then you know you need to build up your reserve fund to a greater extent, and it improves transparency. Everybody know what the overall plan would be. Another recommendation is to have the Government Treasurers Organization of Texas to review your investment policy. I think your investment policy would pass their certification, but it's always nice to have an outside party review those. They tend to fall out of compliance after legislative sessions, but the legislature hadn't updated the Public Funds Investment Act since 2019, so I'm sure you'll be in compliance, and it's something that you'll be able to show your community you're really meeting a higher standard. Additionally, consider certificates of deposit as an investment option. You go into investment pools, and you have to evaluate whether or not you have the staff or they have the timing to do this. But investment pools responded quickly to changes in the marketplace. So the Federal Reserve started cutting rates this past September, and their rates are dropping. And if you're going out 3 months, 6 months, 9 or 12, whatever you select and lock in yield, then you're going to have higher yield in those pools that you just started utilizing, so you can stay ahead of the curve. At least it'll be another tool in the toolkit. I recommended the Clifton Strength Finder as a tool to help staff, and I've gone through that, and I've gone through with other staff members, and it's really liberating for your staff to learn what their strengths are, really become comfortable who they are, and lean into that. And when more of the team members become familiar with their strength, the team can lean on one another. If you want to be a solid team, everybody has strengths and weaknesses, and where one person has a weakness, others can have the strength, regardless of the title. And I know I've worked for small communities, and when you're in a small community, you wear multiple hats. So you can make sure by identifying what those strengths are, I think the productivity and efficiency of the whole staff and team can be elevated. One of the recommendations, the word transparency has already been mentioned here tonight, but one of the recommendations to apply for the Texas Comptroller's a Transparency Star program. And I avoided this for years because I didn't want to have a check register with the name and amount listed on the website for bad actors to pretend to be one of your suppliers. But I've learned that you can truncate the name and still be eligible to receive the certification. Now, this might be one, if you look at the list of cities, they're really mid-sized cities that apply. And I have a question whether or not it could be even easier for Copper Canyon to receive these certifications compared to some other cities. For example, one category is on economic development. And if you're able to say, you don't have any 380 agreements, then you probably could get the star, because that is information. So when your residents ask, do you have any specialized agreements, economic development, or debt? You have one bond issue out there. You just report on one bond issue as opposed to other cities have to report on, 50 or 60 issues they might have had. So that's, but I do want to admit this might take some effort, so you have to evaluate it. But I think it's impressive to have those stars in terms of going the extra mile to say you've been transparent. I have a recommendation on storm and debris removal as well under the operational or service delivery. My experience has been, and I've worked for communities that were hit with 2 tornadoes, that all our time and effort didn't really go as much as you would think into the emergency operation. It really went into the cleanup. And if you don't have the contracts in place, those things could be extended for months. In fact, we probably already about Dallas going months with their latest incident for cleanup. So it's something that you don't have an eye on until it happens, and then people elsewhere working. Under regulatory, I did mention obtaining a certification for the Public Funds Investment Act required training, and that goes right along with open meetings training that's required of all the officials, as well as Open Records Act training. And by having a certification, you're basically doing similar to what Ronald Reagan recommended, and that's trust but verify. You just basically have this extra step where one person collects those, and if it's become routine, and anytime anybody asks, whatever, you have it available and you can share it with them. And since we have a question and answer, I'm not really trying to go through every comment, Mayor, just hit the high points. I do want to just mention with the police department, though, when I first became town manager, the one area, maybe the only area that ever kept me up at night was supervising the police department. Because I felt like we were giving a lot of young men and women, man-killing equipment and putting them on the street at, strange hours at night, and they're out there a lot of times isolated. And the only way I reconciled that was to say, we're going to maximize the amount of training and development we put into them, and then we're just going to release them to rely on their judgment based on all that training and development. So I have a number of recommendations about applying for STEP grants or the Selective Traffic Enforcement Program. They have provided funding as well for the police department, but I have some on mutual aid to really put in writing the agreements that you already have with Bartonville and Double Oak and others around you to support one another. But the pursuing the Texas Police Chief Accreditation Program, they have probably over 150 policies that they recommend. And to get that, you could go through your Texas Municipal League and the Government Risk Pool to provide really a grant to pay for the application fee. In addition, they provide additional training for all the municipalities that provide insurance for them. They've come to the realization that one of their biggest exposure in law enforcement is really smaller communities because of the lack of training. So they hired additional staff just to go around the state to provide training, development, whatever support that communities need, trying to limit their costs. So at this point, since I've mentioned, in full disclosure, I should say that I also serve on the Texas Municipal League board, as well as Texas Municipal League and the Governmental Risk Pool board. And I share their concern that one of our biggest exposure and one of the areas that we can best serve cities is through the training and development they're providing local cities at no expense. So all your chief has to do is call upon them. They have staff down here to provide help and support. And especially since you started a new department, this is really the right time to lay the proper foundation going forward. So with that, in terms of conclusion, Mayor, I stand ready to respond to any questions from the council as well as the public, but I provided recommendations in terms of how to improve, also how to generate additional revenue. But all in all, I would have to say, from the type of assessment that I've performed, you guys have a lot of stuff to be proud of in this community. So with that, I'll respond to any questions. Beg your pardon?
There's some that will argue with you. I'm going to go to the citizens first. Anyone like to ask a question of Mr. Jefferson? No question. Sue, Tamil?
I've read Ron's report. I'd like you to explain why you think the town's website is so important.
Oh, yeah, thank you. Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I've been for a long time of the opinion that there's far more citizens visit communities virtually than they do in person. And your website is going to be really, it can be inviting for them, prospective residents and others, or whatever their interest is. But if it's not updated, then people abandon those. If you get on someone's website and you find misinformation, you're going to conclude it's not reliable. So you're going to pick up the phone and start calling. So it kind of defeats the purpose of an effective website. But if you flip it around, it can improve transparency. People won't have to call as often. I know when I did talk to your staff, I recommend if you have citizens who call on a regular basis for the same information every month, then simply put it on the website, and they can, they end up being appreciative of that. In the town of Prosper, we did that with a citizen, and he took our information, he put it on social media and to really rival us in terms of what development activities was happening. So we said, why is he calling us? Let's just put it on the website, made it easy access for him. And 4 or 5 years later, when he became a council member, he recited those stories. So really a lot of the more active individuals in your community is going to monitor your website if you can make it really accessible and something that they can access. So in terms of strengthening engagement with the community, it's a great way of doing it. But I will caution you with a website, you really have to have someone dedicated to reading and reviewing it, because dated information can easily be placed on it. And it's not simply here, but every city I've looked at, I could find dated information. So I encourage communities to come up with a process to, various areas, departments review their information and have another party reviewing it as a citizen would, looking for information and evaluating their ease of moving around and how many clicks it would take to find the information. So thank you for the question.
Anyone else? Any other questions? Ms. Castillo? Go ahead.
On the website and we find out things that they already started, like the charters that we have to huge fiasco. And then they mentioned it in the council meeting that they were going to start, and then one day they start changing how they are. I think that puts a lot of extra pressure on our town secretary. I believe that we were a small town, and then we have an explosion in the Hickory and Goose and Copper Creek and, I 100% agree with you, and I've said this for years on this, that we should have either an intern or we hire somebody that comes in once a week to just put that on our town secretary with everything else that she has. She's doing the electric, she's doing the permit, she's taking away, people in our town, employees, I put everything on her. Now we basically have 2 employees. And that's unrealistic to think that our town secretary can keep up there. And so what's happening is I do run social media, I do have a Facebook with Copper Canyon. I have over 400 people on this private group. And somebody calls me, I put it up within probably 30 minutes, 200 people know. And so that's how we all get information. You guys know that. Sheila will call me and ask me to post something because she's, not working, maybe she's off.
Mhm.
I do 100% thank you for saying that. That means a dedicated person. Obviously, we're spending a lot of money on other things. Don't get me started. So I don't think that would be too much of a strain on this town. I mean, whether they have all this money to hire somebody to keep the citizens informed. That's the problem. It's for transparency. It goes for confidence. It's a mess. And to put that on our town secretary is just unfair.
Thank you. Ted, you had something? You had a question?
Hey, Mayor, can I come?
Sure, please, go ahead.
Yeah, I'll say that it's a work in progress for a lot of cities. And what I try to recommend is if the community knows there's an issue, a lot of times they benefit from putting together a frequently asked question or some type of fact sheet document, because you could see on social media the misinformation being spread and moving opinions. And once you really get out there and provide, factual information, for example, the city could look at a particular service and actually cut rates. But you can see on social media, somebody say rates are going up. And you're like, what? That's not correct. So really, it does take some effort to be in tune to what people are seeing, or if you know your community and know what could spread pretty quickly before it posts, and try to be ahead of that and putting accurate information out. So I've seen when you don't have accurate information, people tend to fill in the void, fill in the story, and so it just takes a lot of effort to put the correct information.
I've got a lot of inaccurate information, but of course you have next door, and that's for it. If we had a up-to-date website, then it'd go right there, and it wouldn't be on. I'm not sure whether I have it or not, but I'm just saying that we always talk about the website, and unfortunately, it goes back on our town secretary, and I think that we need somebody to take that off.
Yeah, thank you.
Anybody else? Ted?
In your introduction, you covered a lot of areas, and you also say that you mentioned regulatory compliance. And I didn't hear much about regulatory compliance in your comments. Could you expand on that a little bit? What you see as the areas in this town where regulatory compliance could be improved?
Yeah, you mentioned something about that earlier during your comments. And when I came on board, Dunaway was also hired, in close proximity to that. So I mentioned I wouldn't really get into the development area because someone else was doing that work for the town. But the things that I know that I mentioned in my comment earlier that falls in that category really is Public Funds Investment Act. So being in compliance with the law for there, the Open Records Act, as well as the Open Meetings Act, as well as the things that I touched on that fall in those categories.
But we have a company that started that. They were not directed correctly, angered a lot of people in the town, adjusted accordingly, and still we're going to have problems. And our regulations, our ordinances today are out of date. Period. I think everybody recognizes that. The problem is we're not doing enough to get it where it needs to be. Now, we've got some people working on it, but they're working on it. We are not legal in certain aspects of our town ordinances today. And that needs to be addressed. And I will hope that if you can, to contribute to that and do a little more analysis in that area, because it is definitely needed in this town.
Council members have questions?
Well, if you have other questions, you can call Marlon at any time. His number's available. So if something else, the question comes up, so citizen contacts you. So.
And looking at our website, it was interesting, one of the misinformations, our tax rate was listed low. It was wrong. Our tax rate was listed higher than it actually is.
Right.
When I tried to look up council meeting minutes, sometimes they were 5 or 6 months out of date. There's no reason for that. Copper Canyon is beautiful. I have photos of it on the website. And you guys are very nice. I'd love to see a picture and a background of each one of you on the website so that people could look where you live, what you did or doing now, and what you maybe have what you would like to tell.
I couldn't agree with you, or I couldn't agree with Paula Castillo anymore. Then we need someone, whether it's part-time or an intern or something, 2 days a week, 3 days a week, that does nothing but IT stuff. It keeps us updated. Doesn't need not to be a full-time. We can't afford a full-time $50,000, $60,000 person. We don't need that. No more than we needed. Law enforcement, code enforcement is whatever it is. It's a part-time thing. And I really think we need to pursue that. Now we're pursuing a new town work for, you're right, Sheila's overwhelmed with stuff she does, and she does a great job. So there's no argument that money's due and needed. And I think, we see that. It's just that you spend money to get an assessment, you get crucified for it. Then that brings up, you need to spend more money to fulfill the recommendations, you get crucified for it. So we'll just get crucified the rest of our term. But, that's just the way it is. That's why we volunteer for this job.
Question, what, rather than trying to reinvent the wheel, what town, city do you recommend, or do you think has one of the most up-to-date, best website with most information that would be a role model?
Yeah, I think the best one I don't necessarily review everyone, and so I can't tell you have a good sense of the universe of how everyone's. But the town of Prosper has done a really good job. There's a great communication staff as well that you could look at to emulate, and you'll be able to look at it and see the effort of trying to get ahead of what issues citizens are concerned about. You'll see the kind of the news section where they push information out. You'll see the kind of headshots and bios that Mayor Sue mentioned as well on there. So you open it up and you'll see, community kind of popping and representing itself and showing basically putting its best foot forward right from the start. You'll see the speed in which you can try to limit the number of clicks to find data as well. So I'm not putting that out as the best, but I think it'd be a really good start to come familiar with what the residents are asking about, efforts to improve in that regard. But what the core is having correct information on it, timely information. That's the foundation.
Anything else, Council?
Yep, one quick thing. Harlan, thanks for the report. I mean, I appreciated, your comparison because we don't really get a chance to do a lot of that up here. We're in Copper Canyon and we see neighbors, but we don't get a lot of exposure to towns that are further away. And the practices, underneath their websites, underneath, the way that they operate. We don't get to see the inside. So I appreciate those analogies. I think the fact that we do as well as we do in your comments is good to hear. The one comment that I had, I was looking at the financial management stuff, in more detail than perhaps others might, because I've been involved in it so long. But are there tools or models you think that would be helpful to us? And this could be something you can follow up on later, but are there things, we have a monthly report, yes. We also have a pro forma that we run for 10 years and for 20 years, which does have, every road on town mapped and what their life is and what we expect to spend over time. Are there tools that you think, in addition to what we've got, that we should have?
Yeah, the only thing that really jumps out, and I'll think about it some more, but the quarterly Public Funds Investment Act report. Now that you're using investment pools, I try to tell people when you don't have big staff for investments, if you watch the trends on them, so if you have like a 13-month trend on those reports, because the key is you want to make sure the guys who do nothing but investments, when they see signals and start moving money around, it'll show in terms of the number of participants, the balance in the pools, and you want the 13th month so you can compare January of 25 to January of 24, for example, because cities get an influx of money, school districts and invest it, so it's going to be a higher balance then. But if the balance of 25 is substantially lower than the balance of January 24, then hey, that's a signal. And there's some other things that you could look at in terms of when you track those. So what jumps out is when I look at quarterly investment reports, information that people have, trying to set it up so it's more useful and it communicates something so much faster than just looking at a lot of numbers. But if you show it graphically, it jumps out at you with a glance. So if you were looking to answer your question, I think about some more other areas in terms of tools, because when you look at software packages and other things, you really have to match your size community with, the tools and how much time your staff have to work with them. I've seen cities go to Munis, Tyler Technology, and buy the Munis financial package. And they could have went with a medium, because with Munis, you have to have a dedicated person just to run reports for you. So some of that depends on, hey, you have to have the right tools for the size.
Yeah,
of the
I think
community.
we have Excel as our planning tools. We use Excel, which is a great tool if used well. The other thing I would say is thanks for the CD mention in terms of investments.
Oh, okay.
I think that's something the committee will talk about. We just got to balance that with lockup. I mean, the problem is, we just started getting pools of funds that we didn't need operationally every year.
Right.
And so before we started getting too far ahead of that, train, we wanted to make sure we were doing everything we could to manage as much accessibility as we could in the short term. But I think CDs are in the future. For sure.
It's so surprising. Talking about my career early on, by the 1990s, I thought CDs were played out. Who's going to buy CDs? We're doing treasury and agency, but the last few years, CDs have come storming back, and they actually are a useful tool. So they've been kind of repackaged to be more competitive than they had been years ago. So,
Well, Harlan, I appreciate it. I mean, when the meeting started, we all needed to resign, and we were local council members in town run like
Yeah,
I think we're, I think we're running a good ship, actually. We're headed down the right path. We have security, we have good investments, we have transparency, whether people believe it or not. And we try to keep people informed as possible. We need repairs, and your assessment brings that out.
yeah. Well, thank you very much, Mayor. It was great working with you.
Thank you, Arlen.
Let me know if you have any questions down the road.
Next item is public hearing. The town council will open a public hearing for the town of Copper Canyon. Public hearing to receive public comments on proposed 2024 to 2025 Copper Canyon crime control prevention district budget. Anyone like to speak in favor or opposition? No one speaks in favor of opposition. I will close the public hearing at 7:50. Staff report, town administrator, you made your report, police department.
Evening. So we finished up the year with approximately, well, not approximately, with 14 cases for the department. For the month of December, we had 92 citations. That includes both warnings and hard citations. And 42 calls for service for the month. Again, I'm kind of training heavy. Recently attended a patrol rifle instructor course. That's so I can teach the other officers patrol rifle abilities, which we've ordered, and now we just need to get them the training. I've also sent Senior Officer Weisinger. He just returned from a baton and handcuffing instructor course. The positive thing about both those courses, they were both free. So I think the only thing that really, I think we had to pay for a hotel for Chris while he was down doing the training. But other than that, I try to keep our guys at a certain level training wise, and I'm trying to do it on a budget because I don't want to waste anybody's time or money. So, and again, any concerns, thoughts, questions, normally I'd say look at the website, but apparently, speaking of communication issues, I crashed the PD webpage trying to update it. So I don't know what I did to it. Some sort of gremlins got into it while I was updating it, but we'll have that back up as soon as possible. Yes, ma'am. We had some AR-15s made. I took one to the patrol rifle instructor course. It performed great, and I think it'll be an excellent asset for the department to have. Yes. And those belong to the town. They're not going to grow feet and walk away. So.
Thank you, Chris.
No, nothing beyond what Troy already has.
Steve? Mark?
Evening, Mayor, Council. How y'all doing? Thanks for having me. I hope you all had a Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. As we go into the new year, we've had some exciting stuff. The County Commissioners Court, Judge Eads and the commissioners, they reappointed 3 of our commissioners to ESD 1 and 2. That was Sheldon Gilbert, Rick Merrill, and Keith Mashburn. So they, as you know, they do 2-year terms by appointment by the Commissioners Court. For the year, as you know, we usually, by now, you would have my monthly report. It's running a little bit behind, but we're also doing an annual report. For the year, we ended up with 3,847 calls, which was 18.8% more than we did last year. So our call volume is truly increasing, and so in a lot of different areas. The biggest news is the new ambulance is coming. I've been saying this for months now. They're supposed to be here this month in February. It is being delayed, but I have been working diligently with the vendor, and they are looking to give us a free loaner ambulance that we can basically borrow, not rent, but they're going to let it be a loaner ambulance. So it's supposed to get here this Wednesday. I'm going to inspect it. It's coming from Killeen. It's an older ambulance, but will allow us to use, we do have a reserve ambulance, so we'll put our reserve ambulance in service sometime, hopefully in February. That's our plan. It's been our plan all along. And then we'll keep that loaner ambulance as a reserve, because we do have to have a reserve piece of equipment to when one of them breaks down. So we are looking to do that. So the plan is, we are still planning as budgeted to hire the 6 firefighter paramedics to put that ambulance in service next month. So we're looking to do that sometime in February. I just need to see that ambulance first, because unless I have that, I really have nothing for them to get on. And so that's the biggest news. Been really a lot of hard work over the last couple of weeks to make that happen. I was very disappointed because they've been telling me it's going to be here, it's going to be here, and it's like, well, it's not going to be here. And I go, what? As you can imagine, the frustration I had, but they are being very gracious after a lot of conversations to give us at least an ambulance so we can use in the meantime. That ambulance, they said it could be, they wanted to be very conservative in their estimate. They said it could be as late as May, hopefully be sooner. Again, I was not happy about that, but that is the latest. So, but our goal is to put an ambulance in service come February, regardless. We're planning for that. We've been planning for it. I have all the firefighters interviewed, ready to go. I just need a piece of equipment to put them on. So we're looking to do that in February. That's probably our biggest news. Other news you're probably going to see this month is Fire Station 513, where the new ambulance is going, right there on Copper Canyon Road. It's getting a new roof. As you recall, the hail damage we had last spring, whatever it was, that's being replaced. So they're doing Station 511, the one on 407. It's being done right now as we speak, and they'll be doing 513 after that. So you drive up and down, you'll probably notice it's going to not have a roof there. We did close this past week on the land for the new station in North Lake. So that's another big win for us. So a lot of good things are happening. A lot of things happening at once, I might say, but that's also going on as well. Winter storm was not as bad as I thought it would be. I really was. We had almost kind of what I call a mini EOC. We're kind of set up prepared for the worst. We had the three typical ones, which are the wrecks, the alarms, especially once things start to thaw out. And of course, the one that's most preventable is the falls. We get a lot of falls, people getting out. You know, we did a thing on the news. I don't know if you saw, but we were trying to say, look, if you don't have to get out, please don't. But people just get antsy. They need to get out. Next thing you know, they fall, break an arm, as you can imagine. So other than that, as far as the community stuff, we've been always, every month we're involved in the community. We delivered hundreds of toys to Children's Hospital with Sadie Slay. That was a big thing we did. We partnered with Lantana at the golf course, people as a place for people to bring toys. It was a huge event. We delivered hundreds of toys to the hospital. We did after the first year, there's always a big shortage of blood. So January 3rd, we did a blood drive again. We try to do that at least twice a year. So we'll continue to do that. And then that's about it. That's all I have for today.
Thanks, Chief.
All right, thanks.
Next question?
Yes, sir.
If you don't mind, is that okay? Mr. Mayor? Yeah, go ahead. Thank you. So with our country connected community here in the fires in California and stuff, how many of those fire calls were Copper Canyon itself? Any way to break that down?
It does come in the monthly report as far as how many calls. They're broken down by town. Yes.
So,
It's a smaller percentage than most of them.
right.
Lantana, obviously, you look at your population densities. Typically, where your population densities, that's where your call volumes are. But again, we respond to fire. We have to respond from different areas.
Right.
But yes, typically, Copper Canyon is a lesser call volume than, say, like Lantana.
What did you say, 44,000 or something like that?
How many people?
No, how many calls was that?
3,847 calls. So less than 4,000 calls for the year.
Yeah, that's what it all.
No. That's for the entire district, 65 square miles, 45,000 citizens all across it. But when we do give you a report, not only do we break it down by we give it by nature code, everything from, wrecks, we break it down. We also break it down by community as well. So we do give that information in the monthly report.
Next item is consent agenda. Any item on the consent agenda may be removed by any member of council for individual discussion and questions. I am going to just clarify one thing on number 3, calling for the election. There will be one seat that currently Councilmember Gibson had will be for a 1-year term because it's fulfilling a resignation. Councilmember Andrews' position will be 2-year term. The open seat that Councilmember Johnson was in would be a 2-year term, and the open seat for the mayor would be a 2-year term. Council, any discussion on the consent agenda? If not, I entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I make a motion, we approve the consent agenda as stated.
I have a motion by the Mayor Pro Tem. Is there a second? Second by Councilmember Liebert. All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous, motion
Aye.
carries. Next item is, we need a table, for now, the gentleman, Jason Cumming is a Homeland Security agent, ICE?
That's correct.
Okay, and he wants to serve, he has to get permission from his supervisors before he can do that. So he asked if we would, the council member gets and asked if we would postpone this until, just put it on the next agenda, and by that time we'll have an answer.
He doesn't really control when he's going to hear back from his chain of command on that. So I expect that to be within the near term. I think for next month, that'll be great. But there are additional seats on the CCPD board that are open. We have 3 open seats right now. So, and we're looking for volunteers who want to support allocation of funding to the police department. So anybody who's interested, they can grab an application and send that to Sheila.
Thank you. Next item number 2 is discussion, consider, take action regarding approval of the Copper Canyon Crime Control Prevention budget. Council, this has been in your packet. They just approved it tonight, however, but the budget was in your packet. Councilmember Gibson, any comments? If not, I'll entertain a motion from you.
Yeah, motion to approve.
I have a motion by Councilmember Gibson. I have a second.
Second.
I have a second by the Mayor Pro Tem. All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous, motion carries. Next item is discussion, consideration, taking action regarding Resolution 2501, approving a 1-year extension for an amendment of the 2023 annual contract between the town of Copper Canyon and SPI for miscellaneous pavement repair, striping, and drainage improvement. Council, any questions on this? Councilmember Andrews, this went up just a little bit, but we're doing striping on Copper Canyon.
We are in soon to be striped, like you said, Copper Canyon. And we're also talking about the extension as per the existing contract. They have the ability to renew the contract extend it for 1 year.
Right.
And it is slightly higher, but hey, everything I buy is a little bit higher. So I suppose it looked okay to me and the others that looked at it. So.
Would you make a motion for?
Yeah, I would make a motion to accept the contract.
I have a motion by Councilmember Andrews. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by the Mayor Pro Tem. All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous, motion carries. Any item on the next agenda? Hearing none, time being 8:03, I entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion we adjourn.
Mayor Pro Tem, motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Gibson. All in favor? Motion to adjourn approved.
Do we get statements of work on the SBI stuff, or it's a full, the contract is just all the stuff that